Hi, this is Alex. My mom is Heather from Shine.fm. This is Sipping Tea with Heather and Steven.
This podcast was born out of random conversations
that bring us both joy.
A lot of joy, actually. We laugh a lot.
A lot.
So we come up with questions or things that we want to ask each other. You can only ask something that you're willing to answer.
Correct. That's the one rule. That is the only rule.
Right, actually, exactly. So, Steven has been sitting on a question.
Because I really think it's an intriguing question, and maybe it's too deep. I don't mean philosophical. I just mean like you gotta dig for this one.
Okay, well, I'm willing.
All right. So there's here it goes. I'm using my radio voice now.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is one thing that fourth grader, about 10 years old, Heather, would be excited that you get to do today as an adult?
Oh, wow. That is an intriguing question. It really is.
There you go.
So, fourth grade Heather got teased quite a bit.
Oh, teased? For
yes.
what?
Well,
for being so eloquent?
No, I can't go into that, actually. It's probably not appropriate to talk about on radio or podcast.
Where's the pause button on this machine? What?
Yeah. No, probably that she has grown children. That, like, I get to have grown children, or that at fourth grade, Heather never thought she wanted to have kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my stars.
And actually, Heather, all the way up until she met her husband, didn't think she wanted to have kids.
You didn't want to, or you just didn't think that life would give you that opportunity?
I had a really hard time thinking about me as older Heather.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't see a 20-yerold Heather. I couldn't see a 30-year-old Heather. And I had my first child when I was 29.
Gotcha.
So I just couldn't see myself that way. And I didn't think, this is really funny, I would be a very good mom.
Oh, and so you've actually proven yourself wrong.
That's
I hope
correct.
you've arrived to that point.
Yes, I do have grown adult children, so I mean the therapy will start soon.
Well, and I was going to say, and if forced into a headlock and offered noogies, the threat of noogies, they would probably say you're a great mom. I think they would.
Yeah,
honestly,
so
knowing them well enough that I would think they would say that about you.
Now, here's a little tidbit about fourth grade Heather.
Mm-hmm.
When she left her teacher, that I did this 2 years in a row, fourth grade and fifth grade. I had two male teachers for the first time ever.
Oh,
fourth grade and fifth grade. And when I left school at the end of June or whatever, I cried.
Really?
I was so sad that they weren't going to be my teachers anymore.
Wow, because you had connected with them and they had poured into you.
For sure.
That's awesome.
For sure.
I love that.
Yeah, and at a memorial service for a family member recently, my fourth grade teacher came.
That's remarkable.
And he had all of my brothers and I, and he said, I absolutely loved you guys. And
wow.
I was like, you were the best. You were seriously the best.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So there's fourth grade Heather. You got a lot of information.
You know what? I got to tell you this though, kind of from the teacher perspective. Retirement as a teacher it's not fabulously wealthy.
No, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of this. I have several teachers in my family, and they don't do it because they know they're going to get rich. That's a fallacy.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So I know that probably you looking at him and you were like, you're the reason we connected. I'm so honored.
Yeah.
That put so much fuel in his tank. I know it did.
Hope so.
I really,
hope so.
I wanted you to know that.
So what would fourth grade Steven be excited to know that adult Steven gets to do now?
Well, okay. There's two things that popped into my mind.
Okay.
Number one, not that I do this very often because I try to buy automobiles that last for a while.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that I try to be thrifty, but I also think about, well, what's going to have some longevity. But every once in a while, and I think that's why I take such an interest in choosing the next car.
For sure.
So fourth grade Steven would have looked at that and gone, okay, my mom didn't get her first car until I was in third grade.
Wow, really?
So, yeah, we went mass transit everywhere, or we walked.
Because you grew up
in Chicago. So that just made sense. So when my mom brought home this, like, horribly ugly, I mean, just detestable, whatever year, Plymouth Duster that was lime green. I kid you not. We were all like, at first mom was like, look, you guys come outside and I want to show you my car. And we were like, yeah, this is awesome. We're going to get to go exactly where we want to go instead of having to like take the bus and then walk 3 blocks.
Right.
And then we went out and we were like, please tell us it's not the only lime green. She was so excited. I feel so bad now about it because I know she bought what she could afford.
Right, for sure.
And she probably got I hope she got a great deal.
She better have gotten a good deal
on a lime
it.
green Plymouth Duster. So that's the first thing is like, I think young Steven, 4th grade Steven, would be impressed that like, I have the financial wherewithal to buy a car, not a home. I just always figured home was whatever you were living in, you know, an apartment or whatever. But a car, that meant something, you know, some sense of independence.
That's good.
The other thing was, and I realized that, I'm just going to say this out loud. I can shop for my own clothes. And I know you're looking at me going, oh, there's a surprise. And I'm like, no, let me explain. I remember my mom helping me shop for my clothes as I got ready to come to college.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Like she was still invested.
That makes sense.
Like, you know, and there was a balance growing up because I have a brother that's 3 years older than I am. There was a balance growing up where most of my wardrobe was hand-me-downs until I got bigger than him.
Right.
And when I put on muscle weight and started playing sports, his hand-me-downs no longer fit me. In fact, we couldn't share clothes even. I was bigger than him.
For sure.
And so there was a period of time. And then, you know, all through high school. And then as I approached college, she went to the major local retailer and we got sheets and a comforter and also happened to be able to find jeans at that place.
Wow.
It had to be colored jeans back in the day because we used to tease 80 something.
Colored jeans.
We used to tease that Olivet's administration was convinced that Satan inhabited indigo denim. That was like the running joke because any other colored denim was allowed on campus
except
for indigo, except for blue. You could not class. That was only for when the sun went down and you were thinking to yourself, what? So like Satan really turns up the party after we all put our jeans on. So I think those, as I thought through it, those are the two things that I would go, you know, and I'm like you. I never imagined because quite honestly, when we were kids, they were already talking about Y2K and what was the word.
Right.
And so we would fast forward in our imaginations and write, you know, schoolwork and papers about, well, what's it going to look like when a new millennium happens?
Right.
And we were all convinced, we were so young in the year I was in school and it was so far away, 18 years away, that we were like, will we even live to be 30 years old by 30? Oh my gosh, that's so old. I wonder what we're going to look like at 30.
Yeah.
So that's probably that was part of the conversation. Here's the second half of the question. Ready because it's 2 parts.
You did not tell me it was
Well, see, I wanted to surprise you. You thought you were just going to sit in the cat seat and have to drive all of these conversations.
No.
So here's the second one. Okay, it's much like the first, but I'm going to turn it on its head.
Okay.
What would one thing be that 4th grade or 10-year-old Heather be horrified or hate doing as an adult? Like she looked in the future and was like, I ain't looking forward to that. And I don't mean like anything like too awful weird, but what I would say is, so I'm not referring to anything like malicious, but when I say what would I don't know, making the bed every morning.
Oh, I don't do
be
that. So no,
Hey,
10-year-old Heather would not be horrified by that because she doesn't do it.
Okay. All right. Well, you beat me to the punch there and surprised me at the same time. But no, I think like what would be some of those things like, oh, I have to go grocery shopping again. Or would that make 4th grade Heather go, yeah, I'll go clip coupons. I want to go grocery shopping because I'll be an adult and I'll be a mom. What are some of those things? Are there any of those things? Maybe that's the better question where we could talk about like what are some of the cool things you were looking forward to and didn't expect. But maybe so like growing up, paying bills.
Oh.
Anytime because I hate to kind of rat out my parents, but the reality was there was always loud contention.
Oh, yeah.
When bills came due.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter like if it was one bill or it was the end of the month and you ended up with more month than you had money.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Been there, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So was there anything that you were like, I'm never going to fight about bills or I'm going to hate paying bills? Or, I mean, I even watched my own mom do her own taxes. And while it frustrated her, she would sit down, somewhere in April on a Saturday and just do them.
Yeah.
You could file them back then. It was easy enough to do them.
Right.
So is there anything like that you would look and say, little Heather would have hated this, but I do it?
I think it's cleaning my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My mom used to get us up every Saturday morning and would be like, come on. It didn't matter. Like, I remember from like probably 10 years old or maybe a little younger because she was a single mom. My parents divorced when I was 6.
Okay.
And she was like, come on, we're going to clean.
Okay.
And I realized that she probably, and I got this from her, I think, I'll have to ask her about it now, that she wanted to clean with someone else.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to do it alone, No. And so I didn't mind it when we were first married, but then when the kids came along, I started talking to other moms, and they were like, include them. Like we had these floors that were, I think it's laminate, but they looked like wood.
Okay.
And you just used vinegar water on them.
Okay.
And so I would mop them, and then I would get rags out for the kids, and I'd make them take their feet and go back and forth and dry it.
Oh, nice.
I would have I still have videos of Seb vacuuming the living room. So I think that's one thing. And now that the kids are older, and just also to be super transparent, my husband doesn't really clean. So
wait a second, he makes messes, but he doesn't clean.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly,
I'll stay away from that one.
But
the rest of that one.
The other thing that I'll say now is I've actually hired someone to come in twice a week, twice a month, because it's a gift for me. Like I had some friends say to me, probably, I think she's been with us almost a year now. They were like, you need to do something that helps you. That makes you feel better. And the kids, 2 of them are almost out of the house. One is for sure out of the house. Seb is real close. And Atticus is a senior. And so, they're like, you just don't have time to ask them to do. They do things, but they don't, not like full house cleaning.
Right.
And she comes in and she does the floors and she dusts and she does the bathrooms every other week. And then I don't do it.
Right.
Like, unless I make a mess on the floor, I don't do it. So I think cleaning, because I didn't love cleaning back then, and I don't.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that I don't like doing, but I do it, is cleaning out the litter box, because we have 3 cats. So that's one thing.
Your cats balance out the value of you cleaning out the litter box.
They should. They should most of the time. I really wish that was something I could get my kids to do, but they won't do it still.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I'm like, okay, this one's going to make a mess on the floor, which one does, if we don't keep the litter boxes clean. So I better get down there and clean them up.
You ever thought about an automatic litter box? They have those.
I know they do.
They're not super expensive anymore.
Really? Maybe we should do that then.
Maybe we should talk to listeners about a collection.
So now I turn that back on you. So what is the thing that 10-year-old Steven would be like, looking in the future to your adult life? No, I'm so not doing that.
Well, I'll give you the perspective of this. 10-year-old Steven enjoyed this thing. And now adult Steven hates it.
That's
so
funny.
It's a little bit of a different thing. I loved it every time I was in the car and my mom or dad, and so it's a car thing again. I just vivid memories of carness. My mom or dad would stop and they would get gas in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the smell of gasoline, number one.
Okay.
Number 2, the bright lights. Number 3, Number 3, all the products you could see. I was like, there's more candy bars in this one. Why are people holding up the gas station just for the candy bars alone? Like 10-year-old Steven would have been like, wow, this is awesome. I would have been a little kid with a squirt gun holding up the but and now as I roll forward as an adult, that's like one of the most irritating thing when I'm watching my fuel gauge I might drive a little quick. I don't drive over the speed limit a lot, but 0 to 60, they don't track how quickly you get from 0 to 60. So I spend quite a bit of gas getting there.
So when you have to put gas in, it's
it's just
out of your pocket.
And I have relatives, which I've never understood, that do this. They will put in $10 or $20.
Oh, okay.
But every time I get to the gas station, I fill it all the way full.
Okay.
Like I top it off and then I'm good but it still irritates me when I have to. I'm like, oh man, the low fuel light just came on. Now I got to get to a gas station.
Uh-huh.
And 10-year-old Steven would have been thrilled by that.
Yeah.
Oh, the smell of gas and the bright lights and the stuff, Slurpees and all of it. And I'm like, no, that's not really where I want to be. If somebody were like, Mr. Alvarado, we've hired a service to take you, and I'd be like, yep, Here's the keys. Go get fuel. I don't ever have
for
to.
A Christmas gift.
Exactly.
For Steven,
yeah.
You could get that service for
Go
him.
right ahead. Full service gas. Check the oil too. I'm awesome. It would be awesome. Just roll those days backwards.
That's
anyway,
funny.
so yeah.
That's so funny. And just on a side note, you still like a good Slurpee, right?
Oh, well, this is a very funny side note. I blame our chief engineer, Gary. He and I travel places.
Yeah.
And one day we were out. We had worked outside. We were exhausted on the way
warm,
back.
too,
It was
right?
very warm.
Yeah.
And we had gone through we got there early enough to where it was cool. We got wet. We finally dried out. We went from just drying out to sweating like rivers. And then we get done and the sun is starting to sweat. And he looks at me and he's like, I need a Slurpee. I'm like, dude, it's been almost 30 years since I've had a Slurpee. And he was like, no, that's not even possible. And I was like, oh no, I'm like pre-diabetic. So I got to watch what I consume. And so for me to I just wouldn't put frozen sugar in a straw. It just, I don't, it's not something I would think about.
Right.
And he insisted, he didn't want just a beverage.
No,
he had to have a Slurpee, an icy or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't, is that what they call it up there in Michigan land?
Yeah, because 7-Eleven is big up in Michigan.
So it is a Slurpee or it's an icy?
Icy.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So you know what I'm talking about. So we get to this gas station and we don't get like a small. We don't get a medium. We get like the largest container.
Give me the bucket.
Yeah,
that I can
I'm like,
roll out of the gas station.
can I put in this coffee container? Can I put icy? Is that allowed? I was just like, and so the funniest thing was he was driving, so he was doing a really good job of just sipping his.
Oh no, you were all in.
10-year-old kid, I was like, like every other breath, like I had to come up for air. It was ridiculous. I had the thing done in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And Gary looks over, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I mean, how does this straw with the little spoon thing supposed to help me? Yeah, they didn't. It's wonderful technology. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and then we get, and I'm like, hey, you gonna stop and get gas soon? He's like, well, yeah, we need fuel.
I know what you're thinking.
No, wait. He was like, oh, well, of course, yeah, Steven, we're not gonna run out of gas, so I'm a responsible human being. And so I'm like, could you maybe stop at a gas station that would have Slurpees? And he was like, what? He was stunned that I had sucked that Slurpee down, man.
Yeah.
And I was just like this little kid with ADD. I get out and I'm running around the pickup truck. I'm like, come on, let's go see. There might be more than 3 flavors.
Right, exactly.
I go in there, I was so disappointed. There were no Slurpees. They were just like I could have gotten a caffeinated beverage, of carbonated one, but that wasn't the same. And then after the sugar high wore off, I was like, I'm really glad I didn't get a second Slurpee. Yeah.
Now, do you have a go-to flavor? Or do you just try different stuff?
I've only had one in like 30 years.
But what about when you were younger? Do you remember?
No.
Oh, okay.
I seriously don't remember.
Okay.
But the one that I had most recently was the frozen Coke one.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, and that's honestly, this is something that you or the listeners don't know about. I actually prefer flat soda.
Oh.
And so I know. It's a
so
character
weird.
flaw. I know.
What in the world?
A long story. I'll tell you some other time. It'll make for a great podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a great radio. No, it won't if you have to sell it that hard. Anyway, no, the Coke one, it's just foamy and icy and Coke flavored, but there's no carbonation to it.
Oh.
And so I really, really enjoyed that because I actually am a fan of non-carbonated.
Right.
I mean, or a
Okay.
flat soda.
Right,
And so that
right.
was wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just back when we went to WSHW down in Indy.
Yeah.
And we if you want to look at Facebook and find the record, you could find.
Right, that was the Slurpee.
That was
trip.
the Slurpee day.
Yeah.
I mean, we had no food in our bellies by the end of that day.
That's why you wanted another one. You're
Oh,
like,
I know.
this is so good.
Sugar high. Woo! Let's go get another Slurpee. Ridiculous.
This has been Sippin' Tea with Heather and Steven. If you would like us to answer a question, email me, Heather@shine.fm.